Hey YouTube, I'm on today 2014 Ninja 300. This is a bike that I've been wanting to review for a while. I get a lot of people asking me about good first bikes, and I keep recommending the Ninja 300, so I thought it's about time I do a review on one. And putting my gear on here as I'm starting up. Let's turn the key and get the ignition going and let it warm up for a minute. So right away, if you can see it in the video, the first thing you'll notice is that on this bike we've got the GI Pro gear indicator. It's just a nice little feature when the lady's riding it or somebody's learning to ride to know what gear you're in and kind of to have an idea on where you're at. And maybe you're riding for a while on the straight road and you kind of forgot where you're at for some reason. It happens with people starting off, so it's not a bad feature. So this bike, again, 2014, and you're looking at about 296 cc's. They call it 300. Bike weighs about 379 pounds, somewhere in that ballpark, as a curb weight, and it definitely feels really light. Part of the fun of the bike. It's also got an extremely low seat height, something around 30.9 inches. Don't quote me there. And it makes it so pretty much anybody can flat-foot it. I know people that have sat on this bike that are 5'1", flat-foot it no problem. I really do think that it's about as versatile as it's going to get, shy of maybe like a Honda Grom. Typical thing, bike's 6-speed transmission. You've got all the same features: high beam, low beam, signal, horn, clutch. Everything's in the same spot. Nothing's different about this bike. Just low cc's. Let's start going here a bit. So the first thing is obviously on a parallel twin, these are bikes that are generally slightly lower compression. I believe this bike's like a 10-to-6 compression, something like that. And it's a bit of a slow rever, but honestly for a Ninja 300, for what you're trying to get out of it, it's absolutely fantastic. So I've got about 2,000 miles on this bike, and I've had it since new. I've had the girlfriend learn how to ride on it. And we take it to track days, we practice around with it. It's a really fun package. So the first thing here, the first thing here is that, as I mentioned, it's a rather slow rever. So you can see here that I'm just cruising through. I'm trying to be a little bit more cautious about speed and stuff at this hour, but the motor's extremely typical of a parallel twin. It is smooth. It is a little buzzy, just a parallel twin feature, if you will. But everything about it is as simple as it gets. Bike's got a slipper clutch, so when it comes to shifting or being smooth and clean on downshifts, the slipper clutch will help you a lot. Bike's extremely lightweight, as I mentioned, 379 pounds, which in the scheme of a sport bike is quite light. I'd say most sport bikes these days are going to be at least in the 420 range area. I mean, there are some bikes that are definitely very light, so I wouldn't say this bike is designed to be as lightweight as possible, but it's definitely something that's a nice feature, makes it manageable for a new rider. One of the reasons I really like this bike is the fact that even though it's low on cc's and on paper low on power, it certainly doesn't ride anything like that. I mean, one of the nice and most fun things about it is that you can really use 100% of this bike on the road when you get comfortable with it. And if you learn all the proper techniques when riding this bike, you're going to be able to apply that and really jump into a much larger cc bike really quickly. I think the mistake that most people find is that they go to see a Ninja 300 and their biggest concern is, well, it's low on power, I don't know if it's going to last very long, I feel like I'm going to only have it for a few months. Do I want to spend the $5,000 or whatever price tag this is to then have to move out of it in a few months time or maybe a year? And I think there's also guys out there who have been riding for 15 plus years who have bought a bike like this because they really love the low cc bikes and really want to do either short course style racing on like kart tracks, stuff like that, or they want to just enjoy it, commuting on it short distances. And one of the things that's really cool about this bike is, as you can notice right now, I'm in the city. I'm in an area that's got a, I think, 35 or 40 mile per hour speed limit, and I'm doing 45 miles an hour right now, and I'm in 6th gear. And anytime I want to go, I just give a little bit more throttle and the bike literally just jets away not a concern in the world. It literally moves as though it's got plenty more power, and of course it's geared really well for that. One of the negatives to the bike is that because of how it's gearing to, you end up finding that you shift quite a bit with it. So, you know, when your first gear and everything's really short gearing and you are moving through the gears a lot, I'd be very surprised if most people ever see first gear shy of starting and, you know, getting to a stop. Just because it's totally unnecessary. And like I said, the bike's geared so short, so unless you're crawling at 5 miles an hour, I really just don't see anybody using the first gear. I know guys on the forums do swap the sprockets. I believe they go up possibly on the front sprocket. I don't recall exactly, but I know that there are sprocket changes that of course will change that and assist with the gearing a little bit. But for the most part, I think the stock gearing for a beginner is great. So let me go over some of the positives. Positives are, it's a very lightweight feel bike. It's got a really nice, you know, position for the throttle, really nice position for the brake. It's a rather upright riding position. I would say the riding position is almost similar to that of maybe like a Triumph Street Triple R naked bike. So it's a surprisingly upright bike. So this is an example, third gear going around a corner, power out, no problem, no bogging, nothing. Shifts, and it's really easy. And it's got a good amount of engine braking. You know, for me, being on the track mostly, I actually don't like engine braking, but on the road I think it's a really nice feature. It lets you to come off, the bike slows really quickly, you don't really use the brakes, you know, and it's a nice feature. So, and the bike and parallel twins generally have really nice engine braking, and this bike's no exception. Goes around a corner, just, I love how just versatile this bike is. You could just twist and turn it, it's so mobile, and you just weave, and it's unbelievable. I'm barely doing anything here. It's just weaving side to side like nothing. Downshift, use the slipper clutch as an example without using rev matching, no problem. Power out, and I'm only at 40% throttle, 30% throttle there. I mean, it really moves without any problem at all. And no, the bike is by no means a jet. I mean, it's definitely not, you know, going to blow you away, but it's not supposed to. It's supposed to be a really non-intimidating package. A bike that, you know, a beginner or an expert could get on, and without much concern at all, get on it and feel comfortable riding. And, you know, having taught, you know, my girlfriend on this bike, I can tell you, a girl, guy looking for it, doesn't matter. You're going to get on this bike if you haven't ridden anything before, or no dirt bikes, nothing on two wheels. You'll get on here without any problems, and you'll be very comfortable as long as you take your time and learn. I mean, the bike, any bike can hurt you, this is no exception, but this is definitely a non-intimidating package. So let me show you here in a little bit of a straight. Third gear, 7,000 RPM. Let's go full throttle. Top of third, 70 miles an hour, really smooth. I thought that was good power. Haven't touched the brakes, and bike just drops right down to 40 almost instantly. As we go over this bumpy section, I guess I'll address the suspension. So on this bike, the suspension is fixed, shy of sag adjustment or preload adjustment in the rear, excuse me. The front's non-adjustable, so it's a totally fixed suspension up front. I would say for a rider ranging from you know, a lady in the 110 to 115 pound area, it's suitable. And frankly, somebody like myself weighing about 185 pounds, I find it to be suitable as well. Again, is it an ideal track setup? No. I mean, but for the road and for canyons and those types of runs, going out having fun or even just commuting, the bike's plenty suitable for that, and I think it's damped quite well. Brakes on the bike, it's only got a single side front brake caliper. It is it's a Nissan, I believe, and you know, for most all the riding I've done, the front brake has been more than adequate. It does tend to fade after a lot of really hard use, but again, I'm talking, you know, quite a high level of use on the bike, more than likely the amount that would be totally almost impossible to do on the road. Having used this bike on the track, I can tell you it is extremely fun, number one, but it's also extremely capable. Just revert real quick, I'm going up what may not look like it, but a rather decent grade, and I'm in 5th gear, 4,000 RPM. I give the bike throttle, picks up, no problem at all, no bogging, nothing. And again, this is all part of why this bike, while it may still be a beginner bike, is a fantastic commuter, is that you can really stay calm in the RPMs, you can really sit in a low gear, you don't have to rev it out, and you can move around. And that's also why it's a really great package for a beginner, because it's not intimidating. You don't have to run it on boil like you would a Super Sport, like a 600 cc 4-cylinder. Now that's part of the advantage of a parallel twin too. The other thing is the fuel economy on this bike is unbelievable. I mean, 55, 60 miles a gallon, pretty much everywhere. On the track, you can go all day on a half a tank of gas, and I'm talking on a track, which means you're using 100% throttle, 100% brake, 100% throttle all day long. It's pretty incredible. It's almost you can almost laugh about it, because you just can't believe that you're burning no fuel at all. So we'll get here, 5th gear still. Let's get on the brakes a little bit. Last minute, just slow down. No problem at all. Clutch was in. That's all braking, and you come to a complete stop really smooth. The front brake is great. Rear brake is actually quite good too. Surprisingly, the rear brake is really, really strong. When I got the bike, I did bleed both the front and rear brakes, and that helped a lot. The bike did have quite a bit of air, both front and rear. For some reason, I wouldn't say that's typical, just something I noticed after riding it initially during the break-in. But that was fixed. This bike does have the dual headlight beam, and ironically the bike looks pretty similar to its older brother, the 600. A lot of people have to take an extra minute to distinguish between the two, just because of the front headlight design is so similar. But headlights are good, and really dark night riding. I find myself, as I guess is not unusual, using the high beam most all the time. The low beam just shoots quite low and doesn't shoot very far, so you're having to transition quite a bit. The nice thing is that using both the low beam and the high beam, you're not overriding one or the other, meaning like on some single bulb bikes, you put the high beam on, it'll kill the low beam. In this case, you can run both the low and the high beam, which makes it really nice. And during the day, most of the time, frankly, I'll run with the high beam on, just for extra visibility. Other things to note on is the bike does come with a fuel gauge. It comes with trip A, trip B. On this model, it doesn't show you any other information. It doesn't even tell you your engine temperature, which is a feature I would have liked to seen on all bikes. I don't really know why something like that wouldn't be included. I mentioned earlier that I installed the gear shift indicator on it, and that was really just to have the extra ability to not so much for me, but for beginner riders that get on it, to be able to reference what gear they're in, just as a reminder, just something less to worry about or to think about. And sometimes if you're in 6 on this bike, you're still revving quite high and you're searching for the next gear that isn't there, so it's kind of good to look down and say, oh well, I am in 6, I guess. So because you're on the highway on this bike, and when you're on the highway doing 80 miles an hour, you're revving at 8,000 RPM just about, and it seems quite unnatural to be revving so high on a bike on the highway, when on many other bikes you're cruising more around the 6,000 area, so it does rev quite a bit higher. What else? I guess a lot of the messages I've gotten from people inquiring about the Ninja 300, or those that I've referred, ask me, well, how does it compare either to the CBR version or the CBR 300 now, which is out, which is also a great bike. And I'll tell you why I chose the Ninja over the CBR, but I'll tell you some pros and cons to each model. The first thing is the CBR has one, for me, large advantage over the Ninja, which is that the CBR, you can actually move the front forks through the triple clamp, where on the Ninja, man, this bike is just so nimble. I'm telling you, it's plenty power for the road. It really is. I mean, the bike just moves no problem. It doesn't ever feel to me like, man, let's go. Not at all. It always feels really comfortable. And coming off a liter bike, I mean, that's hard to say. I mean, if I'm comparing to a liter bike, well, obviously that's stupid because you can't. But I mean, power-wise, it's fantastic. I ride this bike frequently with guys on liter bikes, and it's on the road. We can all go only about the same speed. It's just how fast can we get there? But going back to what I was saying about the front forks on the CBR, the nice part is that you can move the triple clamp, or move the forks through the triple clamp up or down, which is a nice advantage for different size riders if you really need the extra adjustment, and if you're planning on using it at the track. Obviously, for me, I wanted to get this bike for the use of the parallel twin versus the single cylinder that the Honda offers. I think they're both great bikes, different, a little bit different style power band. I feel the parallel twin's slightly more refined, but reliability, which is a question that's been brought up, I'd say is equal. I mean, the Honda is after all a Honda, and you know, you really can't go wrong. Again, fourth gear through some of these local twisties here, and I'm at maybe 15 to 20% throttle, 5% right now. Turn in about 30-40%. Just really smooth power band, and I let off and the bike just slows down really nice and easy. Little rev match here, third gear, crawling at 20 miles an hour around this corner. Let's just take it nice and slow and power out of it. Really smooth. I mean, it really gives the ability for somebody new to learn and get on and have fun. And if you really want to ride aggressively, if you're, like I said, a rider who's been riding for a while and you're quite proficient in the sport, and you want to get something to really have a lot of fun on, and for, you know, a low price, well, this is a fantastic option too. In the 2,000 miles that we've had this bike, you know, a good amount are definitely on the track, but plenty are on the road, and there's no question that you can easily commute on this bike. I keep mentioning that, and that's because it's got such an easy power band, and it's, you know, so calm through traffic. It doesn't build up high heat. You know, it's a oh, hit neutral there. It's a you know, it's a very low compression, very easygoing motor. It seems to run rather cool, and yeah, I haven't experienced or even heard the fans come on, if I think about it. So I would say it's a great option. I know these bikes are not cheap, you know, that's one thing to know. Of course, you know, when you buy a bike like this, you're gonna, you know, probably see dealers, at least in California, who are gonna sell them for around $5,000. Some guys paying, you know, close to $6,000, which I think is pretty high, but, you know, that's where guys are at. You know, I see a lot of guys also buying the extended warranties for these bikes. Well, you know, it sounds like a great option. I would urge my viewers to probably take a look at the forums and see what kind of issues people are having. I mean, given how I've run this bike, and a very good break-in, I was, you know, pretty precise with how I do my break-ins on my bike, and I feel that does make a difference. But that being said, I haven't had not even one concern with the bike. It's never not once started. It's never not done anything funny where I was like, huh, that was weird. Never. It's every time I turn the key, I let the fuel pump prime, and I start it, and I haven't had a hiccup since date of purchase. So I can tell you that it seems to be a pretty darn reliable package, given 2,000 miles is nothing to rave about when it comes to reliability. But there's plenty of guys out there that have a lot more miles than me, and I think would share pretty much the same experience. Again, going back to the stats on this bike, you're looking at about a 379 pound package, 30.9 inch seat height is what I recall, and that makes it really nice for a range of heights and builds. It's, like I said, a pretty upright seating position on this bike. It allows you to transition from aggressive to upright really quickly as well. One of the things I want to note on this bike that I find to be a huge negative is my bike came with a tire called a Road Smart, and it's anything but smart, and I think it may even be called a Road Warrior, and if it is a Road Warrior, then it's surely not a Warrior, at least not the type that I'm familiar with. The tire is a hard compound. It's great for up and down riding or commuting. But honestly, I would not even bother wasting your time getting your use out of that tire unless you're going to commute with it, or you're a brand new rider going to learn and you're riding at a slow pace. If you're a rider that at all rides aggressively or is looking to really go to the track or anything like that, do yourself a large favor, get rid of those tires as fast as you can. Don't even try to sell them, because that would be a mean thing to do, is to sell those tires to somebody. Those are some of the worst tires I've ever ridden on. Bridgestone has a Battle Axe 003 that I really like for this bike and the size. Obviously this bike runs a 110 up front and a 140 in the rear, which is a small package, but you know, to be honest with you, It's a perfect perfect size for this bike, and it really makes it easy for transitions, and it turns on it just, yeah, it flips side to side just so fast. I demonstrated that a little bit earlier. Nice thing is, I'm going to sit in first gear here and show you. So first gear on most bikes, you could sit at the RPM here and whack it, wheelie, nothing here. Front wheel doesn't even come up. The bike just stays flat. Like I said, it's hard to hurt yourself on this bike. Even if you lean into the throttle and you get a little carried away, it's really hard to do anything wrong. If you hurt yourself on this bike, your technique is totally screwed up, and you need to get a little bit more instruction as far as straight up and down riding. You know, when it comes to the corners and stuff, I mean, well, I still think it comes down to technique. I can tell you that I've seen some people with those stock tires I was referencing, and they are terrible. There's no doubt about it. I mean, if you get in any wet weather in particular, and I'm referencing wet weather as driving through an area that road that had sprinklers all over it, I was just blown away how I felt like I was riding like slicks on a road. It was pretty terrible. So you can tell I don't like the stock tires. But again, if you're a new rider and that's something, don't meld that into a concern, because you do not need to change them as a brand new rider. It's something that as you build, you know, whenever that is, it's something smart to look at. And well, it may seem like, well, I just spent $5,000, why would I spend another, you know, $300 on tires? I can tell you it's cheaper than a fairing or whatever else you got to replace. So I would tell you that to consider that. For me, I was able to get full use of those tires in 3,000 miles, but again, that's, or 2,000 miles, or actually less, which is a little scary. But that's only because of how I use the bike. But I know plenty of guys out there that have the stock tires and commute on the bike, have somewhere in the neighborhood of 8,000 miles, I want to say, before even needing to change them. And I think they might even go longer if you keep up the right air pressures and all that. As far as two-up riding, if any of you guys are looking at this bike and wondering how would it do two-up, I can tell you that I've done two-up quite a few times on this bike, and it surprisingly does excellent. No trouble anywhere. In the city, you don't even really notice it. Like I said, the gears are so short that it really handles it quite well, and it's got plenty torque on the bottom end, so you really don't find you noticing the power much different. And the low seat height makes it really nice, because it makes it easy for you to plant your feet down and get to a stop and start no problem. So, and your passenger probably feels pretty comfortable. So it's really a great overall package. Like I said, brakes are good, throttle's really nice, really lenient, forgiving, and give it a little bit of a pull. This is just fourth gear, full throttle, 60, 70, 80, just a really smooth throttle. And I haven't touched the brake. The bike's just slowing down on its own. In fact, I haven't touched the brake. I think it's going to get to almost a complete stop here on its own, all in fourth gear. So again, that's just to show you how easy it is to get to a complete stop, put your feet down, and super comfortable just to relax and sit and enjoy. And of course, fuel economy, as I said, is just phenomenal. You got a little bit of storage under the rear seat, nothing to rave about. And it's got a little cubby down there, so you lift up that plastic piece, you can put your, you know, your registration, your wallet, your cell phone, that type of stuff in there, no problem. Yeah, your mirrors, you know, I actually find them to be rather nice on this bike. They seem to be rather functional, since they don't sit on the bars, and you know, most sport bikes sit on the fairings, I guess, as this does. The nice part is that if you go to the track or you go to a course and you want to learn, they generally will make you remove your mirrors, and or at least cover them up. And I like, you know, if I go to the track, I'll just pull them off. The nice part is on this bike, it's literally about a 30-second process. Unscrew the two bolts, put the two bolts back in, hold your windscreen in, both sides, you're in and out in, you know, all of, like I said, 30 seconds. Just, I believe, a Allen key or something like that, I don't recall. Other than that, I really like the engine. I really like how this bike's put together. I feel that it's got great power, and compared to the CBR, you're going to have a hard time going wrong with either package. I think if you can get a good deal on a Ninja, it's my personal preference between the two. But again, depending on your build, you may want to look at the advantage of having the triple clamp that's adjustable, being able to push your forks through there if you need to adjust the geometry of the bike. But for the most part, yes, this bike is on a budget premises. It's there to get the beginner rider or the commuter or somebody, you know, who wants to just take it to work and, you know, doesn't want to worry about having a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 plus bike out there, and is going to have all the same fun, frankly. And the reliability. You know, the bike's really low on maintenance. It doesn't really require much of anything during the period that you have it, and it's just a really fun, nice package. I've heard the bike with the Yoshimura exhaust, the Akrapovic exhaust, both sound really good, really aggressive sound, nice deep burble, parallel twin sound. I actually really like it. So those are other cool options to look at. Other than that, I really can't tell you anything else. It's a pretty simple package, comfortable seat, comfortable position, comfortable with two people, comfortable on your own, and it's not really missing any major features or anything that I would be overly concerned about. It seems to be a pretty home run, and I think the fact that Kawasaki thought about making sure the bike had a slipper clutch so that, you know, it's even more forgiving is just an additional bonus. If you guys have any more questions, or if there's anything else that I may have missed, as usual, please post in the comments, and I look forward to hearing feedback and answering any questions. Thanks again for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Take care.